So Michael Bennett had posted this as if he was being some sort of badass. Michael Bennett is a senator from Colorado, and he is just absolutely awful.
Was Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, I will also repeat my answer. He broke the law.
You said earlier that you were offended by a question that my colleague from Kansas asked, which I think was his duty as somebody on this committee to fulfill his responsibility.
Oh, wow, you offended a senator, huh, Tulsi Gabbard? You know what? Offend these fucking senators, because he's going to raise his voice and be a fucking asshole about Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden is not a traitor. Edward Snowden is an absolute hero. Edward Snowden had pointed out that the NSA was spying upon us. Edward Snowden told us the truth. Edward Snowden is Jesus Christ on the cross. He basically threw his comfortable six-figure lifestyle away because he said he'll tell the American people the truth, and the American people will clamor, and they'll want the truth, and change will happen. Instead, he's stuck in Russia. Edward Snowden is stuck in Russia because he told us the truth. God bless Edward Snowden. We need Edward Snowden to be the head of the NSA. That's what we need. Edward Snowden should be the head of the NSA. I'm not for sure what position is Tulsi Gabbard supposed to be.
To advise and consent. We are not here to be a rubber stamp for the President of the United States. So let me ask you again, do you believe, as the chairman of this committee believes, as the vast majority of members of our intelligence agency believe, that Edward Snowden was a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. This is when the rubber hits the road.
This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're asking for. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States. Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
So he posted that as if he was, proud of that. How can Michael Bennett be proud of what he just fucking did? You know, my God. Edward Snowden is not a traitor. Edward Snowden told the people. He told the American people the goddamn truth. But because our fucking U.S. government doesn't tell us the truth, he's going to fucking try to goddamn gaslight us. This is when the rubber meets the road. He's sitting there fucking yelling at Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard had introduced a Stop Arming Terrorists Act when she was in Congress. Shouldn't we stop arming the terrorists? Isn't that a good idea? Why are we arming terrorists? So for Michael Bennett to fucking raise his voice and then post it on his social media like he just did something fucking good, Edward Snowden is an absolute hero. The NSA wiretapping program came right after 9/11 had happened. They passed the Homeland Security. We invaded Iraq. We invaded Afghanistan. And then NSA started wiretapping all of America without a warrant. Without a warrant. That breaks the Fourth Amendment. Read Edward Snowden. My God, I'm just going to end let's get some Edward Snowden quotes up here, because Edward Snowden was talking about how important is freedom of speech. You need freedom of speech when you're sitting there talking to your loved ones and you got some weird-ass government official that's sitting there listening to each one of your electronic, your conversation. People need to be able to have that privacy, to be able to talk, to be able to sift through the truth and to understand what's going on. Some Edward Snowden. He wrote the book called Permanent Record. Ultimately, arguing that you don't care about the right to privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care about free speech because you got nothing to say. Under observation, we act less free, which means we effectively are less free. Ultimately, saying that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is, we just repeated that. Here's a whole paragraph. You guys ready for this? Well, let's see. The government should be afraid of the people. The people shouldn't be afraid of the government. Democracy is when the government is afraid of the people. Dictatorship is when the people is afraid of the government. Here's a whole paragraph. Are you ready? There is simply no way to ignore privacy because the freedoms of the citizens are interdependent. To surrender your own privacy is really to surrender everyone's privacy. You might choose to give it up out of convenience or under the popular pretext that privacy is only required by those who have something to hide. But saying that you don't need or want privacy because you got nothing to hide is to assume that no one should have or could have to hide anything, including their immigration status, unemployment history, financial history, health records. You're assuming that no one, including yourself, might object to revealing to anyone information about their religious beliefs or political affiliations and sexual activities as casually as some choose to reveal their movie and music taste and reading preferences. Ultimately, saying that you don't care about privacy because you got nothing to hide is no different from saying you don't care about freedom of speech because you have nothing to say, or that you don't care about freedom of the press because you don't like to read, or that you don't care about freedom of religion because you don't believe in God, or that you don't care about the freedom to peaceably assemble because you're a lazy, antisocial agoraphobe. Just because this or that freedom might not have meaning to you today doesn't mean that it doesn't or won't have meaning tomorrow to you or to your neighbor or to the crowds of principled dissidents I was following on my phone who were protesting halfway across the planet hoping to gain just a fraction of the freedom that my country was busily dismantling. Being called a traitor by Dick Cheney is the highest honor you can give to an American. The freedom of a country can only be measured by its respect for the rights of its citizens, and it's my conviction that these rights are, in fact, limitations of state power that define exactly where and when a government may not infringe into that domain of personal or individual freedoms that during the American Revolution was called liberty, and during the Internet Revolution is called privacy. America's fundamental laws exist to make the job of law enforcement not easier but harder. This isn't a bug, it's a core feature of democracy. You should always let people underestimate you, because when people misappraise your intelligence and abilities, they're merely pointing out their own vulnerabilities, the gaping holes in their judgment that need to stay open if you want to cartwheel through later on a flaming horse, correcting the record with your sword of justice. I like that one, Edward Snowden. So yeah, Michael Bennett, you can go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. You just made me like Tulsi Gabbard even more. Jesus Christ. This is the shit that we gotta fucking deal with in America? Clearly, Michael Bennett doesn't give a fuck about the American people. Sitting there spying on us and breaking the Fourth Amendment, you're breaking the Bill of Rights. Does Michael Bennett even know that he's got the Congress is supposed to declare war? Yeah, maybe you could get your war declaration powers back, you fucking asshole.